Hey, good afternoon. Want to welcome everybody to our Retail Warranty Reimbursement webinar. My name is Melissa Peach. I'm the controller from KADA. Also from the office, I have Jarrett McLaughlin joining with us, and unfortunately, Jason Wilson couldn't be with us today because of travel conflicts. Today's warranty reimbursement webinar is being presented to you by Bellavia Blatt. They are preferred partners of KADA. They're a great resource for our dealers, and we are thankful for their partnership. They were also going to be platinum sponsors at the KADA convention in June, and we're looking forward to seeing them in Asheville, North Carolina. At this time, I'll turn it over to Keith and Ken, and they will be presenting for the webinar with you guys.
Great. Thank you so much, Melissa, for the introduction. My name is Keith Gitman. I'm the managing attorney for Retail Warranty Reimbursement powered by Bellavia Blatt. Ken and I really are excited to be here today and thank everyone for joining. It's always a pleasure working with the team at KADA, Jason, Melissa, and Jared, and serving as the exclusive preferred provider of retail warranty reimbursement for the dealer members. Today, we're here to discuss an area that's really important for dealers to fully understand as it greatly impacts profits. Retail warranty reimbursement. Whether you're here to obtain a general overview of the process or the overall benefits of filing these submissions, we'll discuss all the key points. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the Q&A function, or you could always contact us after the webinar is completed for further discussion about your dealership's individual needs. We can go to the next slide. Thanks, Ken. Just to give you a brief overview of our agenda, we're going to discuss today that one, the difference between a statutory and a manufacturer submission for an increase in your parts and labor rates. This would include eligibility, timing considerations, and just the general submission process. Next would be the legal intricacies involved in a state statute. Also, how the statute would benefit you as a dealer. And just general tips and practices to ensure that you'll maximize the dealership's reimbursement rates. Ken?
All right, my name's Ken Lohr. Thanks, Keith. And I have a fixed ops background primarily. I'm not on the legal side, so I'm sort of the subject matter expert when it comes to retail warranty reimbursement. I've been doing this for probably 20 plus years. And Bellavia Blatt, we're pioneers in the business. The firm has been in retail warranty reimbursement for over 20 years, 25 years roughly. And as a lot of you know, there's been lots of activity over the last several years with many states bringing statutes on board, allowing dealers to collect retail for their warranty claims. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I respect your time. I know everybody's busy. So we'll probably spend about 30 minutes or so, and depending on what types of questions you have, we might extend that a little bit, but roughly about 30 minutes. So, save your questions until the end, and Keith will take a look at those in the chat box, and we'll answer everything that we possibly can. But a little bit of background. As manufacturers, they've cut margins, significantly in my career. I've been in the business for quite some time, and I can remember when new car grosses and margins were 10%, and that's just unheard of now. So, that's been a really big challenge for us over the years, and especially now that we've had some issues with, not some, but lots of issues with inventory. So it's been a really challenging environment. Although grosses are up pretty good over the last couple of years during the pandemic, we're still constrained by many issues that we have been for many years. We're faced with facility upgrades and audits and chargebacks and sales audits and stair-step programs and allocation issues and online deliveries and online issues, things like that. And now we have EVs coming into the picture, and we're unsure what is that going to do to the fixed ops picture. We hear lots of conflicting reports about what that's going to do to fixed ops revenue. Is it going to affect the number of visits that clients have in our stores? Those types of things. So these are all really challenging issues that we have moving forward. So those are some of the things that we're faced with. But retail warranty reimbursement, it allows dealers to collect their retail pricing for their warranty claims. And this can make hundreds of thousands of dollars of difference in your net every year. And like I said, all 50 states now provide statutory filing guidelines that will make you more gross profit on every warranty repair. And this is different from the traditional warranty labor rate requests that we've all done in the past, where we just gather up 25 repair orders. The manufacturer gives us a little spreadsheet. We put all the information on the spreadsheet. We establish what our labor rate is. And let's just say we say our labor rate's $130 an hour based on what they tell us to do. We give all that over to the manufacturer, and then they come back and say, hey, we'll give you 115. We're not going to give you 130. So that's the difference between a statutory filing and a regular, normal, routine yearly filing with the manufacturer. Once we establish what our rates are, that's what the manufacturer is obligated to pay us under the statute. And of course, now that we have statutes, we're entitled to receive reimbursement at retail for parts, and we were never able to do that in the past. It was always whatever the manufacturer determined, which in a lot of cases, most cases, was cost plus 40%. So those are some of the differences between the statutory filing and the local labor rate, market rate filing that we've done in the past.
Thanks, Ken. Also, just a few points on the legal side of things. Originally, manufacturers set the warranty reimbursement rates as what would be deemed reasonable. However, that was unfair, as these rates were much lower than the retail customer rates. So dealers objected to these guidelines. They presented legal challenges to try to level the playing field. So over time, states began to pass laws permitting dealers to obtain retail rates of reimbursement for the warranty work. And as Ken mentioned, as we sit here today, all 50 states now provide statutory filing guidelines to help dealers obtain these retail rates. And also keep in mind that the state statutes provide for retail warranty reimbursement for both labor and for parts. Therefore, Kentucky dealers are entitled to the same labor rates and parts markup rates on the warranty work as they are for customer pay, and the law would permit dealerships to apply for such increases.
Great. You know, and as Keith said, many statutes have been in place for many years. In fact, I think the first one was in Massachusetts back in the 80s. And there was a big lull in between that time and current date. There were a lot of statutes that have just come on board in the last 5 or 6 years. So for many years, there were only a few states that had those statutes. But like Keith said, in Kentucky, we have a statute. You're entitled to receive retail pricing for your claims. So what we found in the states that do have statutes, and of course, all of them do now, 30% of those dealers have never filed under the statutory guidelines. So there's a lot of revenue left on the table for those dealers. And 70% of the dealers that have filed haven't maximized their results. And we'll talk a little bit about that today, how you can maximize your results. And of course, 80% of dealers fail to file on an annual basis. All the statutes have time guidelines where you can refile. As you know, we all raise our labor rates traditionally once a year, and lately some of the dealers have been raising their rates even more often than once a year. So you're entitled to refile in most states at least once a year, some even more, but in Kentucky you can file every year. So that's something that we see a lot of dealers don't take advantage of. So if you're not getting the following, you've left money on the table. Average Bellavia Blatt client receives cost plus 70 to 75% on parts. And as you know, most dealerships today are reimbursed at 40% on warranty parts. So it could really be significant. We're going to show you some numbers here in a few minutes. And the average Bellavia Blatt client receives warranty labor reimbursement at 93 to 95% of your door rate. So, and we'll talk about why that isn't 100% and why it's a little bit less than that. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But one of the things that I really wanted to show you, and I know everybody's interested in, what does this really mean for me or the average dealership? So this is a slide we put together, and this is actual client numbers for one of our clients that we've used. And this happens to be a medium-sized Ford store. And you can see the before column on your left. Warranty part sales, these are annual numbers, were a little bit over $1 million for this store. Warranty parts gross were a little bit over 300,000, which gave them that cost plus 40% number, or the retention of 29.8%. And that gave us about $1.2 million in warranty labor sales. And this particular dealer at the time, his warranty labor rate was $119.81. So after we filed, we were able to get this dealer cost plus 75.4%, which gave the dealer an additional $273,000 in annualized warranty gross profit on parts. So that's very significant. On the labor side, we got the dealer $133.70. And if I recall correctly, his door rate was at $140. So we got him $133.70. That added almost $140,000 in additional labor gross for the warranty side. So this dealer got about $400,000 a year in additional gross. And I just wanted to bring this up. Since this time, this particular dealer has sold his dealership. And as we all know, there's been lots of activity in the M&A area in the last couple of years. And what some people don't realize is when you increase your net, you also increase your blue sky. So think about that too. Adding this $410,000 to the net, and this was a Ford dealer. And if I remember correctly, it was 5 times blue. So that added another $2 million to the price of the dealership when he sold it. So the numbers, there's some consequences that go well beyond the actual reimbursement numbers. So it makes your business even more valuable. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we prepare and what's involved in doing an actual submission, because there are many differences from what you've done in the past if you've just requested a labor rate increase as to what you have to do on a statutory filing. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. I don't want to bore you, so I'll go through some of the highlights, but on average, we have to analyze the data first to determine what is the best repair order sequence. So in Kentucky, we can utilize data that is 180 days old from the date of submission. So we have some choices here. You just don't want to go in and start pulling repair orders and just record the results from those repair orders. It's very possible that looking back during those 180 days, we can find a very favorable repair order sequence that will give you a much better result. So that's the first part of the preparation, is looking at the data. So we spend a lot of time with our clients looking at the data to make sure that we get that great result. And the next thing you need to understand when we do these submissions is we do them with a repair order sequence, meaning that every repair order that we use as a qualified repair order, and we'll talk a little bit about what that is, has to be in numerical sequence. So for example, if we start with repair order number 1000 and we go to number 3000 to extract all of our repair orders that we use for the calculation, every single one of those repair orders has to be accounted for. And we look at typically anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 repair orders to extract the data that we need for a statutory filing. So that's important to remember, because as a fixed ops director many years ago, I can't imagine having the amount of time that it takes to review up to 3,000 repair orders. It just takes a lot of time. So that's a consideration too. And then we have to identify all those qualified repair orders. And I'll talk a little bit about what a qualified repair order is. A qualified repair order is simply a customer paid repair that would have been covered under the manufacturer's warranty had the vehicle been under warranty. So a good example of that would be, let's just say a client brought their vehicle in, a customer pay repair, say it had 100,000 miles on it, and we discovered the car had a leaking water pump. Well, that water pump would have been covered under the base factory warranty if the vehicle was still under warranty. So we would use that as a calculation. So the parts and the labor would be utilized for our submission, as opposed to a client bringing their vehicle in for routine maintenance. Let's just say a 60,000 mile service or a tune-up, a spark plug change, something like that. Those are things that the manufacturer does not pay for. So that's not a qualified repair. We would exclude those. So that's the difference between a qualified repair order and a non-qualified repair. So when we're looking at that sequence of repair orders, that's what we're identifying. We're identifying the qualified repairs, and they're only customer paid repairs. We can eliminate the internal repair orders and the warranty repair orders. And then, of course, we have to validate that all the parts that were used for that particular repair, in our example, the water pump, we have to validate that they are in fact OEM part numbers, because in Kentucky, you cannot use aftermarket parts to establish your parts markup or your labor rate. So if that vehicle, if we had obtained that water pump from AutoZone or something like that, that would not be a qualified repair because it did not have an OEM part. So that's something you have to keep in mind too. So when we do these submissions, we have to have a parts catalog on hand for us to validate all the parts that we use in the analysis to make sure that they are in fact OEM parts. And any mistakes that are made during the analysis, the manufacturer can and will reject your submission. So if you attempt to use a repair order that does have a non-qualified part, they'll reject that submission. And keep in mind, manufacturers are looking for reasons to reject your submission. So they're not looking for reasons to pay you more money for your warranty claims. I can guarantee you that. So you have to be very careful. And then, of course, we have to validate that each qualified repair complies with the state statute. So you have to have a very good understanding of what the Kentucky statute allows you to do and what you cannot do. So you have to really study the statute and understand those nuances of the statute. And then you have to calculate, again, the parts markup and the labor rate for each qualified repair. And in Kentucky, we have to have 100 qualified repairs or 90 days worth of repair orders. So what that means is, let's just say you're a smaller store with lower repair order volume, and within 90 days, we're unable to extract 100 qualified repair orders. Well, that's okay because the statute allows you to just use 90 days of repair orders. And let's just say that we were only able to extract 50 qualified repair orders, then that's the number of repair orders that we use. So it's either 90 days or it's 100 qualified repair orders. And then, of course, we have to calculate the overall parts markup and the labor rate for all those qualified repair orders. And that's what establishes your labor rate and your parts markup on the retail side. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to capture the disparity that's between your current warranty labor rate and your current retail door rate. And like I said, we typically, on average, get 93 to 95% of that for our dealers. And of course, once this is all completed, and by the way, it takes our analysts, we have a team of analysts, and that's all we do all day. That's what we do for a living. We find it pretty thrilling, believe it or not. We really like doing this, but most people don't understand how that could be very interesting, but we find it very interesting. It takes us roughly 40 plus hours worth of work to go through and scan all these repair orders to extract what we need for the analysis. So keep that in mind. And then we have a team that actually proofs every single submission. So if Keith does the analysis, Once he's completed and he completes his 40 hours worth of work, then it comes to a member of the quality control team. We review the analysis to make sure it complies with the statute and all the nuances that each manufacturer has, and they're all different. So it's very, very time consuming. So again, we talked about what a qualified repair order is. Then we have to determine what repair lines can be excluded from the calculation. And every single manufacturer is different because their warranties are different. I'll give you an example. If you have a FCA or a Stellantis franchise, well, Stellantis insists that we include alignments in the submission because they pay for one alignment during the first 12 months or 12,000 miles of the manufacturer's warranty. So they feel, and we could disagree with that, but they feel that alignments are warranty-like and must be included. And there's a reason why they do that, is because, as you all know, we don't charge, most of us don't charge our door rate to do alignments. It's a discounted rate. So it tends to dilute the outcome. So little things like that, you have to understand which each manufacturer will allow, not only what the statute allows, but what each manufacturer requires, and what is warranty-like and what isn't warranty-like. And the other thing we have to consider too is, how do we handle discounting? Because discounts affect the ultimate outcome of your results. So if you use discounts in your store, and all of us do, I've never seen a store that never discounted a repair order. So we all use discounts. So we have to account for those correctly. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes, about what you can do to kind of mitigate some of those discounting issues. And of course, like I said, what are some of the manufacturer's specific requirements to comply with the nuances that they impose on us? And then we have to evaluate the gross margin again on all the qualified repair orders to come up with our total numbers. Again, Keith, you're going to talk a little bit about submitting the requests and some of the legal things and that are associated with the request.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ken. So when preparing to submit your claim to the manufacturers, in our minds, there's really 3 key points to remember: notification, accuracy, and experience. First and foremost, you need to identify the proper points of contact and always send proper notification to the manufacturer that you are in fact making the submissions. Accuracy, it's really crucial to conduct the proper data analysis and identify the appropriate ROs, which Ken discussed in detail, because perfection really is so important. Otherwise, the submission can be rejected, and we want to try to minimize the possibility of any mistakes and, of course, receiving a rejection. And mistakes really are more likely to occur if you have someone do your submissions that doesn't have the necessary experience or knowledge regarding the submission process and the applicable statutory guidelines. So it's really important to be well versed in the automotive side, the fixed operation side, as well as the legal side, to make sure it's a proper submission.
Thanks, Keith. And to kind of piggyback on that, you know, we see quite a few clients of ours that self-submit. They do their own submissions and they're rejected for many, many reasons. And it's not because we're the smartest guys in the room or anything like that. It's because this is what we do for a living. And there are so many pitfalls, and the manufacturers know what they are. So they look for those. So we see a lot of rejected submissions that on the legal side that we try and help our clients get them approved. So like Keith said, these submissions have to be absolutely perfect, because one small mistake can and will cause the manufacturer to reject your submission. So it's really, really important. In my view, it's just not worth the amount of time that it takes internally and the risk that's involved of having your submission rejected, because we've seen submissions that were rejected out of hand, meaning meaning there's no opportunity to resubmit until you're able to, until next year. So you take that risk if the submission is not correct of not being able to resubmit until the following year. So you've lost all that growth. So, you know, I don't want this to sound like a commercial, but I do want to review some of the pitfalls so everybody understands, you know, what it really takes to do this. So it's really important that it's essential, not really important, that they're perfect. So some of the things we want to talk about today, some of the tips about maximizing your results. You know, it's important to take a look at your current pricing strategy before you begin to submit. And we've had, you know, I recently had a client, and I'm not going to say what market it was, but, you know, when the client approached me, he told me what his door rate was. And at the time it was $130. I'll never forget it. And I knew that market pretty well. And I really suspected that he was well below his labor market in his particular area. So we did a labor rate survey, which many of you have done in the past. I'm certain of that. We try and do that once a year. He had not done that for at least 3 years. And it turned out his market was 160. So instead of just submitting, and at the time he was at like 112 for his warranty rate. So you can see what the disparity was. It was a $48 disparity. So what we advised that particular dealer to do was to go ahead and make sure that he raised his rate accordingly. And then once we had the repair order data, which in his particular case, he was a pretty high volume dealer, it took roughly 30 days worth of repair orders with the new changes to go ahead and submit. So my point is, there are some instances where we will advise a client to go ahead and wait 30 days or 45 days, in some cases 90 days before you'd submit, to make sure that you're maximizing your results. So, and then in some cases too, the disparity is not large enough. It makes sense to go ahead and submit now because you may be losing 30 to 90 days worth of gross profit, and just submit, take what you can today and then resubmit next year. It's just a math problem. So we can help you with that too. We have lots of calculators that we use, and we can tell you what the best route is to go. So we do a lot of that for our clients. Other things that we want to talk about too is, should you implement a parts matrix on the retail side? And most of you know what a parts matrix is. Some don't use a matrix and some do. Same can be said with labor pricing grid. Should you implement a labor pricing grid? And those are all the things that you can talk about with us. We're happy to answer those questions. Just contact us and we'll give you that information. So here's some other tips to maximize your results. Limit or eliminate discounts on retail repair type work. And what I mean by that is, when you think about what a qualified repair order is that we talked about, a qualified repair order is a repair order that is warranty-like. That's the key word. So it's a repair, a retail repair that would be covered under warranty. So those types of repairs are what we charge our door rate for. Those drivability issues, those diesel engine issues, those wiring repairs, things like that, that require a Class A technician, or for lack of a better word, our brain surgery. That's what we do. So make sure that when you're doing your brain surgery, you don't discount that work. That's not highly competitive work. That's why our clients come to us for that expertise. In your competition in the aftermarket, they can't do that type of work. We can. So we shouldn't deviate from that type of a pricing structure and discount that work. If you're going to do discounting, then discount the maintenance work, the highly competitive type work that we do, the alignments, the brakes, things like that. And in most cases, that type of work is not qualified. So meaning we don't have to include those in our calculation. So the discounts and most of those cases will not affect the results. So that's really important to remember. So again, if you do any discounts, and let's just say we're applying for a parts increase, well, maybe you should think about in the previous 60 to 90 days, don't discount those parts. Discount the labor. If you're going to give a discount to your client, discount the labor, and vice versa. If you're going to do a labor rate increase request, then discount the parts. So those are some of the things to think about too. And also clearly label the discount as either a parts or labor discount and apply it to the specific repair line, not the entire repair order. So lots of us will give a client a discount and we'll take that discount off the bottom of the repair order. Well, what happens is if we do that, we have to allocate that discount to every single line on the repair order, meaning that if you have a qualified repair line and a non-qualified repair line, the qualified repair line gets a discount too, as opposed to just doing a line item discount, which means, hey, we're not discounting that water pump on line A. We're going to discount that front brake job that's on line B. I don't have to account for that discount that's on line B and apply it to line A because it's line specific. So if that makes sense. So that's another thing to consider. Also, we have some issues with batteries. Most of the manufacturers cover batteries under their base warranty. In fact, all of them do. So those have to be included in the analysis. So when you're replacing a battery on the customer pay side, on the retail side, we tend to pay our technicians 0.5 of an hour. And I've seen as much as an hour's worth of labor. We'll flag the technician. And of course, we're not charging the customer. Let's say your door rate's $140 an hour. We're not charging the customer $140 to change their battery. That would be extremely unreasonable and not competitive. So we see those rates come way down, and that negatively impacts the end result. So if you do a lot of batteries on the retail side, especially if you're a Ford dealer and you have a quick lane, those types of operations where you do lots of batteries. On the GM side, we do lots of batteries too. So we have to be careful about that. So maybe it's something you want to consider reducing the flag time to the technician. Don't pay them 0.5 of an hour, pay them 2 or 3/10, and maybe use your full retail rate to where you're still competitive. So those things will affect you as well. Brakes, that's another area that some of the manufacturers require that we include brakes, namely Stellantis dealerships, FCA. They require us to include brakes, and so does Ford Motor Company because they pay for brakes. Subaru is another one. And normally what we see is a 2-hour flag time to do brakes. And again, those are done at a highly competitive rate, which is much less than your door rate in most circumstances. So that will negatively impact your results, especially if you do a lot of brake work. So another consideration is, should we pay our technicians or flag our technicians 2 hours to do the brakes? Maybe it should be 1.2, maybe it should be 1.5. So these are things to really think about before you submit. We call these the 3 Bs. And the last one is bulbs. Those are the 3 Bs: brakes, bulbs, and batteries. And typically we have to include those. Most manufacturers pay for all 3. And again, those are done at reduced labor rates and increased time. So those 3 things take a hard look at before you submit. Also, like we talked about, alignments are included when necessary to complete a qualified repair. So for example, let's just say we put a tie rod end in a car or a front strut where an alignment is required to complete the repair. We have to include that alignment. So the best way of handling that when you're making a repair that requires an alignment, just include the alignment in the total price of the repair. So in other words, if you're replacing a ball joint or a tie rod end, just go ahead and put the alignment in that at your normal rate, your door rate. If it's 140, include that. Don't make a separate line at your discounted amount of $119.95 or $99.95 or whatever that rate is for that alignment, because that will hurt you too. And again, like I said, some of the manufacturers require routine alignments, so consider adjusting the flag time and the later charge for those. And that's namely Stellantis and Toyota requires us to include alignments. Some manufacturers require inclusion of wiper blades, another area to consider. I would install those at no charge. I never charge my customers labor to put wiper blades on anyway, but we do. We see clients that do charge that. So the best way of handling that is just don't charge them any labor. Just have one of your quick lane technicians or lube technicians throw those on at no charge, and we don't have to include those in the analysis. And again, last but not least, charge your full retail rate for any diagnostic work. So for those customers that come in with a check engine light on, or oil leaks or drivability issues that your Class A technicians spend time on, charge them your door rate. If your door rate's 140 and you flag your technicians 1 hour's worth of labor, then that's what you should charge your customers. That's my view. Don't discount your diagnostic work. So we see that quite a bit, because if you have that in your pricing strategy as a discount, that will affect your outcome. And again, one of the things that we want to talk about too is choose a qualified professional to do the work for you. This is a legal issue. We have to apply for these increases under the statute. So when you're looking for a vendor, look for somebody that has that legal background and is able to help us on the legal side if we need that. So the key is to make sure that you have that experience on your side, not just on the legal side, but again, on the fixed ops side. And all of our analysts that work with us, we all are fixed ops people. So we work to optimize your results. We optimize your pricing strategy to make sure that you get everything that you deserve. So again, all of our analysts, we select the best repair order sequence. That's very key into giving you the best results, because you have that 180 days to look at those repair orders. So we go ahead, we make sure that we select the best group of repair orders, and we charge a reasonable flat fee. We don't charge any contingencies or a percentage of your gross. You don't need another partner in your dealership. We don't want to be your partner. So we're not going to take 10% or whatever that number is for the next year of the increase we get you. We just charge you a reasonable flat fee. We don't do anything other than that. We just want to do the best job at a reasonable fee. Keith?
Appreciate that, Ken. As Ken stated, it really is a very time and work intensive process, and applying for retail warranty reimbursement involves the practice of law and a keen analytical ability. As Ken started to say, we have a team of analysts that are fixed operations experts. We have a team of attorneys such as myself. So we kind of bring the best of both worlds in that respect. So it's really crucial to have counsel that's well-versed in the legal intricacies involved in Kentucky and other states. So we do recommend to have an attorney prepare your submission on your letterhead and have the attorney respond to any objections that may be asserted against your submission. By having an attorney involved, you can really ensure that all pertinent issues are raised and addressed thoroughly.
Great. And this is kind of an example of one of the letters we send out. We send it out with our submission because it's required. You have to cite the statute and make sure that this is a statutory submission, not a local labor rate type of submission. Again, the last thing we want to talk about is we hear some objections from clients, and some of the most common ones, why should I do this or why shouldn't I do this? But the most common one we hear is, I'm afraid of retaliation, especially now with our inventory constraints that we're faced with. Dealers, understandably so, You know, when you used to have 300 cars, new vehicles on the ground, and you've got 10 or 20 on the ground, it becomes a real concern. So we do hear this a lot, but I can tell you, we just don't see any retaliation. You know, way back when some of these statutes first came to pass, there probably was a little bit of that. But during my career, I've seen none of that. And we monitor that very closely. We do thousands of submissions, and we have yet to have a case where there was retaliation. So the manufacturers, again, they're so used to doing this, they have their own team of warranty people. That's all they do, is they review statutory submissions. So it's routine business for them, so nothing to worry about there. The other one we hear is we can do it ourselves. So I tried to illustrate, you know, how complicated and complex these submissions can be, and they're very, very time consuming. So when you try and do this, you know, on your own, you're going to spend lots of time, and the delay in getting it done can be significant. Remember, we'll spend 40+ hours to do your submission, and for you internally to have 40 uninterrupted hours to do your own submission is just kind of unheard of in the retail business. We just don't have the time to do that. So when you try and do that, you leave time and money behind, and of course you risk having your submission rejected. So those are the things to consider. With that, you know, Keith, if you want to kind of wrap it up. And
yeah, sure. Thanks so much. So as we're finishing up the presentation, I just want to reemphasize a couple of points. So filing a statutory submission is the dealer's choice, and this choice can significantly increase profits for your dealership immediately and for the future if done properly. As we've stated, you know, it's vital to use a vendor who has extensive legal and fixed operations experience, such as us. This would allow you to have a team behind you who could advise on the legal and the analytical aspects of the data review, the submission, and the legal issues that may arise. So once you do receive an approval, the rate increases will drive significant profits now and moving forward. Subsequently, you can resubmit for additional increases pursuant to the statute and continue to receive higher parts and labor rates and additional profits to your dealership. Should you have any questions, again, you know, feel free to type them out in the Q&A platform. Also, feel free to contact us after the webinar is completed. We'd be happy to discuss your dealership with you and how we can assist by maximizing your increases. Couple final notes. Lastly, we are running a special for webinar attendees. If you sign up for both parts and labor retainers by this Friday, we'll provide a $1,000 total discount off the fee. And if you sign up for either parts or labor by Friday, we'll offer a $500 discount. So something to think about. And again, Ken, Melissa, Jared, thank you all so much. Unless any of you have anything to add, we really appreciate everyone's time and attention and look forward to helping everyone out.
Great, thank you, everybody. And if you have any questions, again, our email address is up there and our phone number. Don't hesitate to contact us, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have. Melissa, Jared?
We're good. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate your all's partnership, being our preferred partners. And again, if you guys have any questions, their information is up, or you can always reach out to the association and we'll get you in contact with Keith or Ken. So thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Perfect.
everybody.
Thank you so
Have a
much,
great
everyone.
day.